Today we're going to start off with one-step equations. And although we are going to be doing two-step equations, which is what our standards are for 7th grade, we're going to first start off by talking about one-step equations. So there are a few rules that you need to do to be able to understand how to work out two-step equations. So for one step, we're going to start off by squaring off your variable. Okay, now it might not just be a variable, it might be a coefficient with a variable, but either way, that's what you're going to do to start off, because what we're doing is that we're saying, hey, we're going to hold on to this to the very last thing. The second thing is you are going to do the opposite operation. And I'll go right back to that in just 1 second here. And the final step that we're going to do is we are always going to check our work. Now, when we talked about opposite operations, all this saying is that if you add something, the opposite is going to be that you subtract it. If you subtract something, you are going to add it. The opposite of multiplication is division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. Now you're saying, Ms. Puente, I am so lost. I don't understand what you're talking about. Can we break something down? Sure, let's look at this. So if we have x plus 4 and it equals 10, our ultimate goal is to find out what x is. So we're going to start off by following our rules, which is to square off your variable. So x is by itself, so we're just going to go ahead and square this off. Our next goal is to get x by itself, so we're going to do the opposite of addition. And if we looked at the opposite of addition, it's going to be subtraction. So if I have a plus 4, I'm going to do a minus 4. And that cancels it out, saying, hey, 4 minus 4 is 0, so I'm done with that. But one of the things that you have to remember is whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So if I subtract 4 on one side, I have to subtract 4 on the other. If I do that, I'm going to say that x equals 10 minus 4 is 6. If you did it correctly, we're going to go back and check our work. So if we say that x equals 6, we're going to plug in that 6 wherever x is. So if this is a true statement, x plus 4 will equal 10. And that is a true statement. Now let's go back and let's take another look at one. And let's say that x minus 2 equals 16. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to block off that x, which leaves us a minus 2. So our opposite of subtraction, minus 2, is going to be to add 2 to each side. So negative 2 plus 2 is going to zero it out, which means that we're going to cross this out. And if we add 2 to one side, I'm going to add 2 to the other side. We're going to bring down our x. And what this is saying is x equals 16 plus 2, which would be 18. Now, if this is a true statement, then we are going to put that x, that 18 over here, because we said x equals 18. So if this is a true statement, then 18 minus 2 is going to equal 16. And that is a true statement. Now, where things get a little bit more confusing is when we multiply and we divide. So if they are side by side, if I have a negative 2x, what we're saying is that we are going to multiply whatever x is to the negative 2. So remember, side by side means that you are going to multiply. So if I have a negative 2x equals 10, then the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide the negative 2x by negative 2. So negative 2 divided by negative 2, which is going to give you 1. So that 1x, remember that 1, sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. That's why we have just an x. If I divide on one side, I have to divide on the other. So 10 divided by negative 2 is going to say that x equals negative 5. Remember, a positive and a negative, two different signs will always make it a negative number. If this is a true statement, then I'm going to go back and put it into what x is. So negative 2 times negative 5 gives me 10. Remember, two of the same sides are always positive. When you're working with any equation, by supplementing or substitution, you can go back and double check your work, so nothing should be wrong. The confusing part for many students is when it comes to division. If I have 1/3 x equals 9, the opposite of a division would be multiplication. So if we go ahead and if we're dividing, the opposite of division is multiplication. If we multiply, we're going to go ahead and flip our numbers. And because we are cross multiplying, we're just going to X that out. So if I multiply one side by 3, I'm going to also multiply the other side by 3. So what we're saying is x equals 27, because 9 times 3 is 27. If we say that x equals 27, we're going to go ahead and supplement that back in here, or substitute it, and 27 divided by 3 equals 9. So we did that correct.